My dears, dear ladies, dear gentlemen, dear SIEC community and dear friends, it is my pleasure to welcome
Evelyn, you have muted yourself somehow.
Okay, and I didn't get any feedback because there are people sitting in the room and, you know, giving me any feedback here because they can hear me. Okay, I start again. Dear friends, dear SIEC community, it is my pleasure to welcome all the participants today for the 92nd International Conference of the International Society for Business Education. I welcome all the speakers and guests from actually all over the world to share their knowledge and vast experience with our business education community. Well, the development since March 2019 enhanced digitalization and brought us to a new level of organization and cooperation. This year's conference is held as a virtual conference with an on-site options for those who got the chance to travel to Trieste in Italy. At that point, many greetings from the on-site group at Trieste. Yeah. Yeah, actually, Trieste is a vibrant city and it symbolizes the exchange of different cultures and languages. And therefore, we think it is the best place to have the on-site conference, because this is a basic idea of SIEC to exchange ideas and visions among countries. Let me thank to all persons who helped to make this conference a success and a new experience. I'd like to name the members of the EC, especially Laila Waldman, our General Secretary, Jerry Begeman, Head of the PDC, Bettina Fuhrmann, Ruetta Falgam, and Garda from Iceland. Last but not least, Tamara Connor, who organized the virtual part of the conference, and Dana Gray, who is going to moderate the panel. Thank you very much for your support. The conference format is a visible sign of a tremendous change in the world and in the organization. Where will it go? Where will the world go in future? How can we solve our problems worldwide? How can we solve climate problem, for example? This is the reason why the conference, why the SIEC conference focuses on the theme sustainability meets business education. Kofi Annan said once, our biggest challenge in this new world or in this new century is to take an idea that seems abstract, namely sustainable development, and turn it into a reality for all the world's people. As business educators, it is our obligation to prepare young people for the future responsibilities and support them on their path to create a better world. At that point, I'm so proud and honored to announce this year's keynote speaker. Let me introduce now Mr. Helmy Abouleish, the Chief Executive Officer of the SEKEM Group. He is deeply involved in sustainable development. He's a great visionary and the best example of a social entrepreneur. Let us get inspired by Mr. Aboulesh's presentation about the life work of himself and his family. Mr. Abouleish, it is your stage. Oh, a technical instruction. Mr. Abouleish is going to present for about 45 minutes. There will be the opportunity to ask questions, but please wait until the end of his presentation, or please write your question in the chat. We will summarize the questions, and I'm sure you will get great answers. Thank you very much, and have a great conference. Mr. Abouleish, are you ready?
I'm ready. Thank you very much for the introduction. I would have loved to be in Trieste at the moment, but I could not, for the reasons you all know, attend at the moment in Trieste. So I'm very happy to share with you now in this format some of our experience on sustainable development. And I'm very, very happy to do this in the framework of this society, this International Society for Business Education, because it's not only your objective to network and exchange, but it's also your objective to really create and contribute to peace in the world and to sustainable development. And this is exactly what we are aiming for since many, many years, and where we connect and have the same vision for what we should do. Let me try to share with you some of the experience we have made over the last 44 years and about our dreams for the next 40 years on the topic of the economy of love. And before I dig into this in more detail, let me just start introducing where it all began. It began in 1977 when my late father, Ibrahim Abouleish, decided that he, after 20 years in Europe, in Austria in particular, in Graz, very near to Trieste, as you all know, he wants to go back to Egypt to contribute to the sustainable development of his home country. And he had then a vision in his heart, which was to create a community where everyone can unfold his potential, where a community is living together in social forms which really reflects human dignity, and where all the economic activities are conducted in accordance with ecological ethical principles. And you can or may imagine that in 1975, 1976, when he was trying to reflect on this vision with his family in Egypt and with the family. Oh, I think we lost sharing the screen. Is this right?
Yes.
Now I'm back, and I hope it will hold this time. So when this idea came up in his mind, then everybody, of course, told him, this is something which is very difficult. It will never happen. It will never happen. Something called sustainable development in the desert. And there is no community or sustainable community which can work along these lines and survive in this context. And in particular, when he came up with his goals for SEKEM, his SEKEM vision goals, which were first to create this community in the desert where people live, work, and learn together based on biodynamic agriculture. And obviously everyone told him there's nothing called biodynamic agriculture in the desert, forget about this. It's not possible to create biodynamic agricultural communities in the desert. And it has never been done before, neither in Egypt, nor in Africa, nor anywhere else in the Arab world, so it will never work. And it went even worse when he then also continued by saying, and by the way, the products which we will have produced in our context will be sold in Egypt under the framework of what he called Iqtisad al-Mahabba, or we call it today economy of love. Because everyone told him, you didn't realize there is nothing called economy of love. There's an economy of competition. There is an economic system called capitalism. It's the only one which works, and everything else will never yield results and create livelihoods for people. So biodynamic agriculture in the desert and economy of love, these are two no-goes and will never work. And because he was very sure that this is what the future wants and this is what he will achieve and work on, he continued by saying, and by the way, it's not about biodynamic farming, and it's not even about selling products in Egypt or anywhere else. It's all about people and their development. And this is why we in SEKEM, we will commit ourselves to invest into the capacity building and potential unfolding of every one of our members by giving them 10% of their working time for their individual potential unfolding. And again, everyone told him this is a joke. First of all, you didn't yet produce biodynamically, you didn't sell, and focusing on potential unfolding is the job of the government and the schools and the universities, and not a social enterprise. This will make your products more expensive and impossible to sell. And this was still his conviction that this is going to work. And then he even made it more difficult for his friends and family by telling everyone, and by the way, we also have to care for the community and society around us in a time when the term corporate social responsibility was not yet framed. He did believe that we also have to invest into the society by contributing with 10% of our profits into a fund for community development. And last not least, as a researcher, he said, we need new ideas and we need to invest into innovation and research and creativity. And hence, we have to provide some 10% of our profits for innovation, creativity, and research. And so in the end, you can imagine people got worried and told him, this is a mission impossible, forget about it. And you will go maybe and stay there for some months or weeks or even years, but in the end, you will fail. So don't sell your house in Austria before you leave. Just go and play around and come back. And then, of course, you can imagine what he did. He sold the house in Austria, put everything in 3 cars, which we took to go to Egypt. And against all odds and against what everyone was believing is going to happen, a miracle unfolded. A miracle where out of desert, a real oasis in the desert has been created based on biodynamic farming. All kinds of crops and plants have been planted there in this SEKEM farm. But not only the SEKEM farm is developed based on biodynamic farming. In the meantime, thousands of farmers all over Egypt work with biodynamic farming and produce all kinds of crops, mainly for the local market. And these crops are sold as foodstuff, as herbal teas, as pharmaceutical products, or biodynamic cotton garments. And they are not only in a small niche market, but we are selling in 50,000 supermarkets and 25,000 pharmacies, and producing about 800 million tea bags of herbal tea. We are really the market leaders. And believe it or not, our competition are small companies like Unilever and Nestle, who also sell in Egypt. And still, we were able to establish a market for these Demeter products and having a market share of 77% for our product plants. But besides, there's now also a community, as you can see. Thousands of people, 2,000 people work, live, and learn in SEKEM. About 860 kids go to our schools, from kindergarten to high school, vocational training, kids with special needs, and many, many more are coming daily to the SEKEM community. And 10 years ago, we established the Heliopolis University for Sustainable Development, where today 3,000 students are educated in, believe it or not, sustainable economics and social entrepreneurship, green architecture, sustainable water management, renewable energy, phytopharmacy, organic agriculture, complementary medicine and physiotherapy, and so on. So beyond our own imagination, a miracle could unfold. And the question obviously is always, how was it possible? How was it possible that against the mainstream ideas of what is competitive, such a community could develop? And this is a quick summary of 40 years of development at SEKEM. But in 2017, there was one thing, a very nice celebration of 40 years of SEKEM, which we all celebrated together. And another nice occasion, the 80th birthday of my father. And then on the 15th of June 2017, he passed away. And now the SEKEM community and the SEKEM Future Council had to really come together and think, now what is it what we want to do in the next 40 years? What are the next miracles to tackle, and what is it what we want to contribute? And I can tell you that it took us nearly a year to come up with our vision for SEKEM 2057. But as you may see, this vision of SEKEM 2057 was quite different to the experiences we had over the last 40 years. Because we basically decided that after 40 years of prototyping, modeling, testing different models for biodynamic agriculture, community building, for economy of love and so on, now we as SEKEM want to really work as an innovation lab for change. We want actually not to grow anymore, not to do more farms, more factories and more schools, but instead we wanted to develop prototypes and social innovations which would inspire all communities in Egypt to implement some of the ideas and models which we have developed. So moving away from a social enterprise growing and prospering to being a social innovation lab for simple farmers all over Egypt, teachers, businessmen and women, and so on. This is what is our vision for SEKEM in 2057. And you can imagine that we have done a lot of exercises, of course, and some of them are particularly interesting, I think, also for your educational quests for the business which meets sustainability, because we were also asking ourselves, what is future? What is a futurum future, for example, a future which comes from the past into the future, and what is an adventus future? What is a future which comes from the future, wants to land in the present time with all the things which are not yet on our agendas? How can you open up yourself to be really able to receive new ideas, new impulses from the future? Doing so, in the end of this process, we not only came up with a new vision for SEKEM, but we came up with our SEKEM vision for Egypt in 2057. And we have developed, as you can see, 16 SEKEM vision goals for Egypt in the year 2057. And I can tell you, and I will not dive into all of them today, but I can tell you that they are quite aspirational, quite crazy, quite in the line of Mission Impossibles we are used to. For example, we believe that Egypt in 2057 will apply 100% organic, sustainable or biodynamic agriculture. And to support this with a prototype, with a model which can be rolled out everywhere in Egypt in the desert, we have established a farm in the Libyan desert, southwest of Cairo, on several thousand hectares, where under the project name Greening the Desert, we started in 2019 to reclaim desert, as you can see on this picture, with biodynamic agriculture and produce crops trying to prove that biodynamic agriculture in the desert would be competitive to conventional agriculture. Not only being better for the environment and for the people, but also being better for the economic visibility. And this is a thing which I will tackle a little bit later more, but we are convinced that sustainable agriculture is a business model which today is already cheaper than conventional agriculture if you would internalize all the ordinarily externalized costs of water, climate change, energy, and so on and so on. And to prove it on the same farm, we have developed together with our staff and students from the Heliopolis University and from the students from our vocational training center, our own renewable energy modules, and this whole farm run over several thousand faddan or 1,200 hectares is all running on renewable energy. And again, our quest was to prove that going to renewable energy in such a context is not only better for the environment and saves CO2 and all this kind of stuff, but on the long terms, it's also cheaper than burning diesel to run generators, to irrigate, and so on. So another prototype, we believe, is going to change Egypt, and in 2057, Egypt will not only be 100% biodynamic, organic, or sustainable, but also will have 100% energy from renewable sources. And further, and this is something which was from the very beginning very dear to my father, we believe that you cannot disconnect any development, any community development from culture. So we had always this picture which my father left with us, which was very weird for many people around, that when he started here in SEKEM, in the farm where I'm speaking from now, 44 years ago, his first two investments, guess, were what? One, a big tractor, of course. So when we started here, a big tractor came on the farm and everyone was happy and proud, and big red tractor, beautiful. But on the same day, another track came, and on this track was a piano. And then it got really weird, because people said, we have no house, we have no place, and we had to put a tent around the piano. But the picture was, it needs culture as much as tractors to create a community. And since then, we have every day our cultural events in SEKEM. We have a big theater for 2,000 people at the SEKEM farm. We have another one for nearly 1,500 people called the Space of Culture in the Heliopolis University. And since a year now, a third one on our farm in the Libyan desert, which you see here in front of you, another Space of Cultures. And this Space of Cultures are there not only to host international artists from Austria and other places in the world, but also local artists from Egypt. And most importantly, our own employees, students, and co-workers who perform in a weekly schedule the arts they love, and they really try to perfect in their way. So a third model, which we are trying to roll out and hope to reach to every single village all over Egypt over the next 40 years, is to have culture back again, especially in the rural areas, to have these spaces everywhere where artists meet people and co-create new forms of culture, which is such an important source of inspiration for any human being in whatever context he's working. But this was not everything we are prototyping. At a certain stage, of course, we had also to ask ourselves, how can the education system cope? How can the education system from kindergarten and below, up to university and master and PhD degrees really serve the potential unfolding needs of each one of our kids and students. And as you all know from your own experience, this would in reality need a curriculum for each one of them. And so the question was, how can we develop tools and curriculums and methods that really help our kids to unfold their potential and develop their personality, beside all the technical knowledge they need to learn? How they can, through community-based learning, really also feel about the needs of the world, the burning issues in the world. How can our classrooms be in the villages, in the streets and in the fields? And how can we do something with our hands to handle these different things and learn by our hands? How we can connect through cultural activities with our hearts to our values and beliefs, and not only with our brains to knowledge and science. So we are currently in our Center for Education for Sustainable Development developing curricula for schools and universities in Egypt, which should help these schools and will help teachers to really have a balanced educational approach, reaching potential unfolding. Of course, and this is the topic of today, one of the issues we had to tackle and ask ourselves, how can we roll out this concept of economy of love? And because we believe that Egypt in 2057 will apply economy of love, and by the way, I believe everywhere in the world, companies will apply economy of love in 2057 because there is no other choice. The question was, how are we going to do it? How can we introduce this concept into the business world in a way which will add value to those who apply it? So we developed our own logo, we developed our own scheme, and it's obviously a scheme which is beyond the certifications we already have. We have a certification for organic and biodynamic and fair trade and ISO and HAVAC and I don't know what for our processing. But we really were searching for a holistic approach which would help companies to balance what they do in all 4 dimensions of sustainable development. What would this mean? It would mean that the products which use this kind of economy of love logo would answer to any consumer 4 questions. They would answer to a consumer who goes in the supermarket to buy an anise filter bag box of any kind, the question about the impact of this product, this box in the shelf, on the environment in a balanced way. Not only the pesticides, chemical fertilizers, but also the question of water, energy, and carbon footprints, for example. But also the issue, how is it related to biodiversity, and many, many other things. So this is the one question which a product which carries this logo will have to declare to its consumers. And second, these products will explain to the consumer what was the impact during the production of this product on the people in the community from where these products come. Did it really help these communities to develop and prosper and provide better services, better livelihoods? Did it really provide them with the ability to have better medical care and health and social care? And the third question would be, is it really helping them to unfold their individual potential? Could everyone involved really learn something new, unfold his potential while producing this box? And last but not least, it would answer the question of the real price, the true cost, and the value distribution along the supply chain. And why do we want to really answer these questions? Because we believe in future, more and more consumers will ask these questions. Currently, obviously, consumers go in a supermarket, see a lot of boxes and buy according to the name, the logo, reputation, advertisement, or whatever. But they cannot judge any of these impacts on most of the products they buy. And let us speak about ourselves. If we are honest to ourselves, how often do we buy products and we have no idea what's the impact of the products regarding these 4 questions? At the same time, nobody of us, nobody of the consumers in the world I know in Egypt or anywhere else wants to destroy the environment or the community, does not want people to learn, or does not want to apply true costs or fair prices. So if we would provide them, we are sure people will make the right decisions and switch their purchase habits. And yes, sustainable biodynamic agriculture will be the basis for everything we speak about. But besides, we also will speak about this impact on the community and individual potential. How to do this was the big question. And we said the only way to really do it is by having a 100% transparency along the whole value chain. But again, how can you reconnect the buyer with the farmer in the field? And so we developed a tool which we called Impact Trace, a tool which really was there to allow a consumer through a QR code on the box to go back the whole path from his box to this farmer in Minya in Upper Egypt, who produced for them this wonderful chamomile tea. And not only that it connected it to the farmer, but it connected it in all regards. It connected it by following up what happened to the packaging material, from where did the box come, was it really FSC, from where did filter bag come, where was it processed, which locations did it pass by, and last not least, what is the true cost of this product. And by following this supply chain, it shows not only the flow of materials involved, including packaging material, of course, but also all the people involved and their faces, their stories and needs. But what is true cost accounting? This was also a big question. And what is the real price of a product? When you compare a SEKEM Demeter anise tea with a conventional anise tea, at the first glance, when you look into the shelf, the anise tea, the conventional one, is 2 Egyptian pounds cheaper. So the SEKEM anise tea will cost you 20 pounds and the other one 18. So is this the real price? Is it really more expensive? Now, when we did the comparison, the real comparison, we found out it's not more expensive, in the opposite. When we, for example, make a water footprint of these 2 boxes and find out that for the one box, we only needed 183 liters of water, while for the other box, we need 208 liters of water, then there is already a big difference which is connected to a big problem in Egypt. We don't have enough water. Or from the other side, when we find out that the water damage caused per box for a conventional anise box is 5 Egyptian pounds, immediately the whole equation turns around and the Demeter product is starting to be cheaper. And when you go on and ask yourself, what about CO2 sequestration or emissions? And you find out that the Demeter product is sequestering 74 grams, while the other one, in the best case, is not sequestering, maybe emitting, which would equal another 1 pound of additional value or cost for the conventional product. The whole equation has turned upside down, and the Demeter product is really cheaper. And obviously, we could go on and test this for other environmental indicators, for health and social indicators. And as you can see, even on the health side, with the few information we have, there is another difference in the price. And every conventional product has an impact and a cost to the health budget of a country. So what I want to say is that a true cost accounting, which reveals the real prices and the real costs of products, changes our paradigm that conventional is cheaper than organic. And very soon, no government in the world and no business in the world will continue to subsidize the wrong behavior and incentivize the wrong behavior in the same way we are doing at the moment, by just not showing it and allowing people and companies to externalize these costs. So there is a change coming in the next 40 years, which will make it feasible to produce organic and sustainable products more and more. So to conclude, what I would like to tell you from our experience over the last 44 years is that we try to expose these concepts to our kids in schools, vocational training centers, and our university, to our students. And we are very happy, and I can tell you happily, that our students are very open to these issues. They are very eager to learn. They are ready to accept that it needs new approaches to create a sustainable future. And business is playing a major role, a very, very important role. And we will have to face this, that we will not be able to continue in the same way we are working now for 200 years to create different outcomes. So what I can only promote is these ideas of new approaches to education, community-based learning, including potential unfolding on all levels, connecting students not only with their brains, but also with their hearts and hands to the reality of the world. I believe that this can create miracles like the miracle of SEKEM everywhere in the world, and it will happen. It will happen here and everywhere else, because there is no other choice. And for those who still do not believe, I can only quote my dear African brother, Nelson Mandela, who once said, it always seems impossible until it's done. In the same spirit, I wish you good luck for miracles and missions impossible to contribute to a sustainable future. Thank you very much.
Yeah, Mr. Abouleish, thank you very much for this interesting, inspiring presentation. Yes, as business educators, I guess we are used to missions impossible. Any day, any lesson we are teaching. Is there anybody who would like to ask a question? Please don't hesitate and ask the question.
May I ask a very simple question?
Yes, we are collecting a question from the on-site audience. They may not hear you.
Where does the water come from? Water come from? In the desert.
In Egypt, we have one major source of irrigation, which is the Nile. The Nile, and the Nile below the Nile, of course, is since 5,000 years the major water source, carrying not enough water today to feed the whole population of Egypt, but still carrying most of the irrigation water for our farmers in the Nile Delta and along the Nile. And in parts of Egypt, we are also sharing the biggest aquifer of the world, the Nubian aquifer, which goes from Sudan, Chad, Libya, and Egypt, and which carries about 1,500 years of Nile water, and which is another very, 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 I would say, valuable source of water because it's not renewing so fast than the Nile every year, but it needs thousands of years to renew its sources. So this water, of course, we have to use for different crops in a much more responsible way, even than the Nile water. But these are the two major sources. Only a very, very small area of Egypt in the very north on the Nile, on the Mediterranean Sea, has some rain, which is not enough to really produce a lot of agricultural crops.
There is another question from the on-site audience.
Okay. I would like to know, do you have any competitors? Because I think you cannot be the only person in Egypt who thinks about this.
I didn't get your first sentence.
Do you have any competitors?
No, we have no competitors. We have only friends, partners, and we want the whole of Egypt to go organic. So we help thousands of farmers to convert to organic agriculture, not only to supply us, but hopefully to supply local or international markets. But we consider nobody our competitor and hope to find many, many more companies and farmers in Egypt to go organic, because we believe that this is the future anyhow. And our target is not to stay on any exclusivity, but to really share our knowledge in a very open source approach with everyone in Egypt.
Okay, there is another question written in the chat. May I repeat it, Mary, or would you like to ask the question? Well,
sure, I could.
I'll do that.
Okay.
Oh, great.
I was just going to say, I was wondering how you use, do you use metrics to measure this secondary mission, which is for social justice or the economy itself, and how do you develop your metrics to measure how well you think you've achieved it?
I invite everyone who wants to dig into this, not only to connect directly to me, and I will connect him to the team. The team is a sub-department of the Egyptian Biodynamic Association, which developed this standard set, which is also, by the way, inspected and certified. But to answer a little bit more concrete, there is a whole set of criteria which at the moment is in the process of being acknowledged by fair trade and fair wear and other schemes, global schemes, but is more holistic. So we cover criteria which are not in the fair trade criteria, like potential unfolding, how much cultural activities have been performed, and what could somebody learn, and many, many more things. But this is all open source, as I said. You will find it on the website of the Economy of Love, by the way. You can look into the Economy of Love website. You'll find all the criteria and all the information there. And we are happy to share, discuss, and learn from everybody else in this field, because it's all work in process and we are learning every day.
Thank you.
Emanuele.
Yes, first of all, thanks so much for your presentation. It reminded me a lot about social entrepreneurship, bringing about social change. The SEKEM has come before the notion of the Sustainable Development Goals, I believe. How do you perceive this project in relationship to these goals? What is your perception about it?
I'm very happy about the goals, of course, which came lately, as you rightly said. We are working on them since 40 years. Now we found that many of them are corresponding to our sustainability flower and to our criteria, which we measure since many years before. And most of them are linked. To be very honest, I have some concerns on the 17 Sustainable Development Goals of the UN, because they are not far-reaching enough for me personally. But I believe they are a very, very, very good step. I'm enhancing anyone to look into them. We have done a study in the university to prove that we are working on all the 17, you can imagine, and even a little bit more. But it's, I think, a wonderful first step in the right direction. And as I said, I believe change is coming anyhow, either by our insight, enlightenment, and wisdom, or by crisis, which I don't hope. So I think everyone should do steps, and whatever step he can do is going into the right direction.
Thank you.
Good. Thank you. What about the Dana's question? Dana? Dana says that sustainability seems to be a core value. And how does one energize the concept and momentum and gain buy-in? And she likes the vision and the concept of SEKEM. But how to energize the concept?
So I'm not sure whether I really got it, but maybe you can tell me the question once more. And thank you for the feedback, but I didn't get what is the question.
My question, let me paraphrase. I found your presentation to be very inspiring, and I'm wondering how you get buy-in from other groups and energize them to participate and buy into your concept. It just seems to be that sustainability is a core value for some people, but not others. And
I mean,
to me, it's energizing.
Thank you very much. I want to be very, very honest with you. When in our circle of 2,000 people in the weekend, we stand together, and I think you all know the concepts of consciousness development, of spiral dynamics, or whatever else you want to use. I mean, in anthroposophy, you would use Rudolf Steiner. In integral development, you would use spiral dynamics. But the concept of evolving consciousness is a concept which is carried by many in different cultures and in different directions. And we really try to live up to this. And we allow that people see a different world and see different values and see different issues. And sustainability for an illiterate farmer in Egypt is different to a university professor in New York, but you must find his language, and you can find his language. And most probably you will find it in the Quran, in Islam, to really energize him, a different language to the university professor in New York. And a businessman in Egypt who thinks that population growth is a great thing, or climate change is a fantastic thing because it enhances his possibility to gain millions on certain depleting resources, you have to catch in a totally different way again. So you have to speak to the different consciousness, to the different colors of the spiral dynamics, if you wish, in different languages. And this is a piece of social art which you have to live up to and make. And only then people can come together and out of different understandings still join the same vision and mission.
Any other questions from the audience on site or the virtual audience? And I would like to ask a question. As a business educator, I heard about the economy of love. I heard about best practice examples, but what should I change? What do you think? What's the most important skill or the most important skills for our students studying business education in high school as well as at universities? What should we teach?
I have no recipe for everyone, everywhere, in any context, of course. I can only give you my example, what we are doing in Egypt, in Heliopolis University for our students. And by the way, this will be also interesting for you. Social entrepreneurship and sustainable development are a topic for across all students, whether they are pharmacists or physiotherapists, organic agriculture, or engineering students. In our core program, which is a general program covering 20 to 26% of the studying time of all of our students, all of them are exposed. So it is all about them experiencing the burning issues of our times. It's all of, this is why community-based learning is so much linked. You have to take them by their hands, go into the villages, let them see what's going on. You have to show them the fields, the animals, the plants, the pollution in the cities and in the factories. They have to open their minds and senses for what is going on. And perception exercises are an important part at our core program. How to open your senses to what is going around. This is the first thing. And then you need some basic underlying concepts, which in different cultures and value schemes will be different. Islam gave a wonderful concept, basic value concept for sustainable development in the Quran and Hadith and Sunnah. But I'm sure the same is happening in Christianity, the same in Buddhism, and the same everywhere else. You have just to link it to where the people are and live up to. And they have to connect with their hearts. They have to feel it and to fall in love with it. Does it always work? No, of course not, but very often on different levels and to different degrees. And then you have to help them to really develop their skills for getting activists. Not laying back, sitting and analyzing the situation only, but really doing something. Small steps, whatever. We have a social entrepreneurship center, a rural development center, an ecosystem restoration center, and so on. And we try to really give them enough time in the fields, everywhere, outside, to do things. We support them financially, with trainings, with all kinds of things. Every single student at Heliopolis University will, over the course of his first 2-3 years, develop a prototype for a social enterprise. Do something about it, and hopefully spin it off and do it. And I think this is something which is helping many of them to come out of being those who just watch what's going on or think about their next car and bigger house, to try to understand that maybe we have to refocus. Most of them, to be very honest, come every year to our campus, investing into this private education at the private university, money, hoping to get skilled, to make a lot of money, buy a big house, marry 4 women and have 4 cars. Okay, this is starting point. Huh? And now you have 4 or 5 years to work with them, to get more humble, downsize, and explain to them that maybe you can also be very happy or more happy by not having all this. And this is the quest. Huh? And I cannot, as I said, promise you that it always works, but if it works for some of them, you already changed the world.
Mr. Abouleish, thank you very much. We take the message, let's do something.
Yes.
Yeah, and I would like to say thank you very much for the presentation, for these great ideas we can work on during the conference. Before we close it, please be aware of the fact that we close this meeting and we'll open another one.
Evelyn, you muted again.
Sorry, yeah. Okay, before we close it, we take the message of doing something, but be aware of the fact we start the next session. This is our panel session in another Zoom meeting, and I'll posted the link in the chat, but you have got it in the in your list as well. Thank you very much, Mr. Abouleish, and I hope that we will keep in touch and that we are able to exchange social innovation sometime. Yeah. Thanks a
Thank
lot.
you.
Yeah.